And last but not least, I'm gonna keep this really, really quick. I read this yesterday and it ruined my life. Hello? Test, test, test. Hello. Long time no talk. Thank you to everyone who joined the live. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get my ish together last week and come out with like a fully edited video. So thank you for joining the live. It's an hour long, but I went back and I put timestamps for everything that we talked about. So if you want to just skim through it, I know people don't really have an hour to listen to me talk. There you go. I arranged it for you. So if you want to just check on things. But I'm back and I'm doing a huge wrap up of what I read in December and January, because in December, looking at it, like normally for me, I didn't read a whole lot. I always think I'm gonna read more over Christmas vacation and then I never actually do. It's gonna be a combination. December, January, here we go. First and foremost, you know what's coming. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this. Book of the Month is a monthly subscription service where you get to choose a book and you get it for a controlled price every single month. They're going to be new, they're going to be hardcover, they're going to be hand-picked by a team that combs through thousands of books and chooses the best for you. And as you will see, they are all different genres. If you would like to get your first book for $9.99, you can use the code either CARI or BEMINE if you want to add a little Valentine's Day bit to it. It will all be linked in the description box. Let me show you what's up for February. First up, we have The Golden Couple, which looks like it's a thriller. It's basically about a couple that needs to go to couple therapy, and their therapist is not what she seems, and it seems like a recipe for a disaster. So there's that. The next book that I'm confused by, honestly, like the cover itself, I'm just like, okay. This is called Vladimir, and it is about another married couple. They are both in academia, and they, I believe, have kind of like an open relationship, but things start to get really, really messy for both of them, and some of it centers around a young novelist named Vladimir. I'm not sure if this is my taste, but if it's yours, there you go. There's something in Book of the Month for everyone, is what I'm trying to say. One that I'm really interested in though, this is called A River Enchanted, and this is the author's debut into adult fantasy. It is about a boy who is sent away in this world for some kind of training, it seems, and he's called back because all of these girls from his hometown are being kidnapped, and people believe that he is someone who can stop it, find the girls, etc. It says that there are unforgettable characters, a spellbinding plot, and gorgeous world building, so you know that I am here for it. Next up is Don't Cry for Me, which sounds like it's going to be a heartbreaker. It is about a father who is on his deathbed and he is writing letters to his son who he never really kind of reconciled with after his son came out as gay and he didn't accept him. And even reading the inside cover, I was like, no, not today. Last but not least is the one that I am probably going to go for first, and that is A Peach Blossom Spring, which starts in the 1930s in China, and when the Japanese come in, this mother and her 4-year-old son run away and finally end up somehow in America. We don't know how. And then we follow the son who is growing up in America, has a child of his own, and his daughter is asking questions about his family, but he's like, how do I talk about this? How do I try and hide my past that like I don't want to revisit, but also share it with my daughter and stuff like that. So you know that I'm not one for multi-generational tales, but something about this I feel like I would really enjoy. So that is Peach Blossom Spring. Once again, you can either use the code CARI or BEMINE to get your first book, hardcover, lovely, for $9.99. Isn't that wonderful? So thank you to Book of the Month. All the information will be in the description box. Let's talk about what I read in December and January. Let's go. First up, really quick, I started off with a collection of short stories, and it is I Remember Nothing by Nora Ephron, who she was a journalist, but I know her work mainly from her work on When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, Julie and Julia. She wrote like all of these amazing romantic comedies of the time. I kind of have this issue with short stories that are like a little bit autobiographical. This wasn't a memoir per se, but it was close. I liked the first 4 stories, let's say, because her life is actually so interesting. But after a while, it got, like, it's not a book you should read in one shot, and I kind of tried to do that, and I got a little tired of it. But especially, I think the first story, which is talking about her memory loss, if you just want to, like, pick it up, if you're in a bookstore and you see it, just read the first story. I thought it was really touching and really funny. She has just, like, a very interesting way of looking at life. So that's what I started off with. I actually didn't technically finish it, but I read most of it and enjoyed it. So next up is A History of Wild Places, and this was actually a book of the month for December, and it is by Shay Earnshaw, who I love. She wrote Winterwood and The Wicked Deep, which are fantasy standalones that I always recommend. But A History of Wild Places, I think it's technically an adult. Would we even call it fantasy? Oh, now I'm confused. It reminds me very much of The Village. I think we talked about this before. It's an M. Night Shyamalan thriller horror movie. It's basically about this, how can I start this out? We start out meeting this man who has a power to touch things, and he can kind of sense memories related to that. Like, he uses that to help locate missing people. For reasons we don't know, he kind of retired, but he's coming out of retirement for this case. He's a young dude. There is this author who went missing, and she's been missing for a very long time, and what's extra weird about it is that her book is sort of related to going missing in the woods. She's writing a trilogy, she's written 2 books, and they're all about this girl that goes into the forest and gets lost and kind of becomes a monster. And that is sort of what happened. Like, she just disappeared one day into the woods, and her family hires this guy because nobody has found any leads for like a year and a half, I think. And so he is like, okay, I'll take this one last case. How do I go any further than that? I can't go any further than that. It basically involves a commune that lives in the woods, very separated from everything. It was like a bunch of hippies in the 70s bought this land and like moved out there because they wanted to be separate from society, and they still exist to this day. So it ties in with that. So it's a little bit like commune culty, but then there's a mystery, there's a big twist. I thought the twist was a little hokey, but like I was into it. I liked the atmosphere. It was a lot slower. Her 2 YA books are a little bit more fast-paced, but this one was just sort of like eerie and slow, and you just had so many questions. So if you're into that kind of book, I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite of Shay Earnshaw, but it had all the things that I love in it. So pick it up, History of Wild Places. Next up is the one that I know you guys want me to talk about. And I'm scared. This was my first Colleen Hoover. We're talking about It Ends With Us. There might be some spoilers in this, but I will give you a timestamp. I'll give you a warning. Okay, I've tried to explain the plot of this like 3 times. How do I go about it? Basically, we see 2 different timelines. Our main girl at first, as an adult, present day, has moved to Boston. She's ready to like start her life. She ends up running into this guy. They kind of start a relationship, but more importantly, she also finds a lot of friends, and she just kind of takes this leap of faith and decides to start her dream flower shop. And so we're kind of just seeing her try to build this life in Boston, and it seems like all of her dreams are coming true. Everything is going great. I thought that the friend characters were so fun, and she just, yeah, things are just going really good. And then we have a second timeline, which is her in high school, where she discovers one of her classmates is living in an abandoned house behind her house, and she develops a friendship with them, helps like feed them. Basically the kid is homeless, he was kicked out of his house, and so they develop that friendship, and we get to see that through her journal that she found while she was moving. So we basically just kind of follow her on this journey. What can I say? Trigger warning, this involves domestic abuse, and I can't really say any more without spoiling it. So it's definitely adult. Can I say anything else without spoiling it? I tried to in the live. Here's the thing. So like I said, there is a theme of domestic violence. And you know, we talk about children often become their parents. We often are just like repeating the same mistakes that we have seen our parents make. So like our children will probably make those mistakes, and our children's children, etc. And so this book is kind of about breaking that cycle. I kind of disagreed with how it happened because, well, actually I want to talk about it a little bit more. I can't talk about it vaguely, so I am going to add a bit of spoilery. So if you don't want to have any spoilers, please leave, but I am going to actually talk about how part of that timeline ends. You can go to this timestamp if you would like no spoilers. So sorry, but yeah, I need to talk about it. Okay, so this is the spoilery section. So the book starts off with our main character's father dying, and she says that she has nothing good to say about her dad, who I think was like the mayor of town. She has nothing good to say about him at the funeral because, as we find out, he really horrifically domestically abused her mother throughout her childhood. And so in this new relationship that she is having in Boston that seems perfect, seems great, her new best friend is her boyfriend's sister, like it's all connected, she's found a new family. Of course, that turns sour because the boyfriend also exhibits signs of abuse just like her father. And obviously things happen in the book, things get really complicated, but at the end of it, they break up, and Colleen Hoover is basically saying that they have broken the cycle. Like their daughter, spoiler, they have a daughter, their daughter will not marry someone and they won't be abused because we didn't get married. So I kind of talked about this in the live, that I got upset about that because like that is so oversimplified. I don't know, I was trying to apply it to like the world as a whole, like that message as a whole I really disagree with. But if Colleen is just trying to talk about like this couple, this 1 in a million couple, fine, like I'll give her a pass on that, whatever. It's good to show separating and keeping some kind of really healthy, boundary-filled relationship is possible. Like I got what she was trying to do. Did I like it? No, the ending really didn't sit well with me. This whole idea that just because we aren't together, I don't know, something about it really sat wrong with me. I don't know why so many people loved this book. I got messages from people like telling me that I reminded them of the main character because we had red hair, and I was like, why do I remind you of this girl? Like we have nothing in common. I can't do floral arrangements. That's that. Like that being said, as a book itself written, it wasn't that bad. Oh my god, the references to Ellen made me hate this book. That's what it was. Like I could have given it a pass, like a horrible, like a not really good message about domestic violence, whatever, at this point, but like the amount of times that she wrote "just keep swimming," and that was supposed to be like romantic, I wanted to throw my ebook across the room. That was like, I'm getting angry. I'm looking at my notes. I literally put "just keep swimming." Livid. I don't understand it. I don't get why she chose that to be like a cute, quirky thing. I loathed that phrase. Absolutely. So just overall, I had like a not great time with it. Like writing wise, it was fine. Like I said, I enjoyed some of the journal sections and stuff like that. But just overall, like, it didn't sit well with me. If your parents only broke up, you know, and if they were divorced and separated and had good boundaries, like, you wouldn't have been in this domestic abuse situation. You know, I don't know. Just making it a very simple cycle thing that could easily be broken. That being said, though, not to totally ruin Colleen Hoover, the next book I read was Verity. And I didn't know what this book was going to be about. I went into it completely blind. I just knew that a lot of people talked about it online. We're now in January. Welcome. Verity, I think from the very first sentence, lets you know that you're in for like a disturbing book. Basically, the very first sentence is a man gets like run over by a truck. So that's like the setting. That's where we're going in. Our main girl is a writer who hasn't written in a very long time because she was nursing her mother, who was dying and has passed away from cancer. And she gets called into the city to meet at her publishing office. It turns out she gets an offer to be a ghostwriter, sort of. So there's this very famous author who writes a lot of thrillers, and she's famous for writing thrillers through the eyes of a villain, so they're like really dark. She got in a really bad car accident, and she has basically mapped out the whole final book of her series, but she is unable to write it because of her accident. And so her husband is looking for a writer who will be able to put this all together and finish his wife's work. In order to do that, she has to go to their house where the wife is kind of in a vegetative state. Their young son lives there, and then the husband and the housekeeper, and she stays there long enough so she can go through the absolutely messy office to kind of find all of her notes about this upcoming novel so that she can then write it. Get it? Things are definitely not right. Things are creepy. You don't know who is guilty. Like, everyone seems really creepy. The kid, the husband, the wife, the housekeeper, nothing is good. Yeah, there's a twist. There are jump scares. Like, I actually jumped a couple times reading it. People are saying that it was a scary book. I agree. Like, it didn't let me down with that. Like, I definitely was like a lot of the time. I thought for what it was a fine book. Like, it didn't blow me away as a thriller, but like I said, it did the job of making me like, and it kept me interested to the very last page. I don't really know what I think about the ending. I wasn't like absolutely shocked. I think I just have a lot more questions for one character in particular. Yeah, we can talk about it in the comments if you want to put like spoilers and then 3 dots so that people don't see your comment. Spoilers for Verity. Do that. But yeah, I have like questions for like specifically one character who I think is the real villain of the story. So yeah, that is Verity. If you're looking for a spooky, dark thriller, there you go. It was, you know, it did the job. Next up, so I know that in the live I mentioned that Elias and I have pretty similar reading tastes, like 9 times out of 10. All of the books that I like or I hate are dead on with his. However, he did not enjoy The Binding, which was one of my favorite books of 2021. And I'm just returning the favor. I did not like Summer Sons, which was one of his favorite books of 2021. So if you don't know what Summer Sons is about, neither do I. It follows a boy who is going to the college that he was supposed to be going to this semester, but the only change is that his friend / kind of like adopted brother was already down there for summer school, and they were going to then continue to go to school together in that like first semester. But his brother / friend died under mysterious circumstances. It was ruled a suicide, but he's kind of like, this just really, really, really doesn't sit right with me. Because what the authorities don't know is that he and his best friend shared a secret and this kind of power that slowly gets explained. And so he basically goes down and lives with the housemates that his friend had been living with at the time, and he tries to figure out what actually happened to his friend. It's kind of about like academic research and dead spirits and stuff like that. I really can't explain it because I was so overwhelmed by how bro-y this book was. Like, it is 100%, there are two female characters. It is like all boys, all just like racing cars, smoking pot, lounging around the house, talking about their bro feelings. Like, it was so male. That's nothing wrong with that, but it was literally like the way that the guys talked and like the way that guys got over things or like fought or whatever. It was so weird to me. It was just like literally if they weren't racing cars, they were just like taking drugs and like lounging about. Like, it was the weirdest book experience. I ended up skimming through a lot of it because I was just like, no action is happening. They're literally just like being angsty, and I was so confused because Elias and I are always so on par. But no, in this case, it wasn't. The ending, like, the plot felt so separate from like what was happening in this guy's personal life. It was just so strange. So I actually wouldn't recommend this book. I don't know, like, if you're looking for something really different, go ahead, but Summer Sons was like, I felt it put me into a reading slump, and the only thing that made me recover was rereading the selection. I literally felt like I couldn't read anymore because of Summer Sons. I was so sick of reading, and I can't explain why. So yeah, I reread the selection, the first 3 books, because it is so easy to read, mindless, put me right back on track. So thank you to the selection. Screw you, Summer Sons. I don't know what happened in that book. It was the weirdest experience of my life. That's really all I can say. Like, Elias, I don't know what was up. Let me know what I missed. But yeah, sorry, that was Summer Sons and the selection, which if you want to know more about it, I will link my talk about it elsewhere. Okay, last 3. Number 1 is Graceling. Yes, I finally read it. Do I think this could be a standalone? Yes. Should I read more of the series? Convince me down below, but I'm down for this being a standalone. Graceling takes place in this fantasy world where certain children are given a grace, which is a magic, and it can range from anything to being really, really good at swimming to reading people's minds, for example. It goes all over the map. And the way that you can tell if someone is a Graceling is their eyes are 2 different colors. So babies are born all like normal, and then usually within like an hour, sometimes within a year, their eyes will change. They will figure out what their grace is, and then usually they are given to the royalty to use in whatever way they see fit. So like if they're really good at fighting, they'll go into the military. If they're really good at this, blah, blah, blah. Right? Having a grace is sort of more like a curse, because you get separated from your family. You can't really hide because everybody can tell who you are. It's not like a super awesome thing. Our main girl has this really strange gift where she is basically a killing machine. She's really powerful. She basically can't get hurt. And her uncle happens to be king, so she becomes his like mercenary basically, and she just gets sent to do his dirty work all over the kingdom. But we soon learn that she is not super happy with this role, as one might expect, and she has actually formed this underground movement where they will sort of put pieces into play in order to kind of help the good guys, and make it so that she doesn't have to kill as often. She's looking for every way to protect people and bend the rules so that she doesn't have to, you know, commit all of these crimes that are really killing her inside. But when we meet her, she is breaking into a prison to break out this elderly prince who is being held captive. And the rest of the story is basically finding out, why was this guy captured? Who did it? Because the person who is capturing him was clearly like just doing it because another person asked him to, you know? So they need to get to the bottom of that. In the meantime, she meets another Graceling who is helping her with things. I don't know how else to explain it, really. It's just like this kind of fantastical adventure story. I really enjoyed it. The ending was heartbreaking. It was a bit too long. There's a lot of like adventuring through the mountains, and I was kind of like, okay, I know what a snowy mountain looks like we can move on from this. But overall, I thought it was nice. It was definitely YA. I understand the hype. Like, it's definitely, I could see it being a comfort book for anyone who read this maybe a little younger. I think for me, I was like, damn, I wish I read this when I was a little bit younger and it would have hit me harder. But yeah, I get it. So thank you to the people who recommended Graceling. I'm sorry that I'm not explaining it well, but I don't want to spoil anything. So yes, that is Graceling. I recommend. If you're, especially like if you're kind of in a reading slump and you want a little bit of fantasy, good job. Next up, I feel like I read a lot of really kind of sad books to start the year. Like, none of these books are happy. I read The Firekeepers' Daughter, and I went into this knowing nothing, and I thought from the cover that it was going to be a fantasy, but it actually isn't at all. It takes place in northern Michigan, and our main girl is actually half indigenous and half white. And so a lot of the story is just talking about kind of her struggle of identity as far as dealing with her like white French family, and dealing with her like indigenous family. And our story kind of starts with this new guy in town who has joined their really, really good hockey team, apparently. And our main girl is also a hockey player, but we don't know why she stopped, but she did. That's like a whole nother thing. But she ends up becoming this guy's ambassador, helping him get to know the community, helping him train, making sure that he runs every morning, that kind of thing. And they kind of develop this really nice friendship. But then, of course, tragedy strikes, and she ends up getting roped into this criminal investigation that is basically pulling her in every which way as far as like her loyalty. And I just thought it was incredibly heartbreaking, but also so realistic, and it like touched on a lot of things that I had never even really thought about. So overall, I actually liked it. Like, I didn't have a good time with it because most of it was very, very sad. But it's definitely, it's got crime, it's got this, especially in the end, it's got like this thriller, fast-paced element to it. It's got a lot of family, talks a lot about social issues within the indigenous communities. It was a little hard for me to get into only because they used a lot of words in their language and they didn't really tell you what it meant, so it was a lot of context clues, and so it kind of took me a second to understand what was going on. But once you did, I understood the hype. There's no fantasy at all. And you don't need to know anything about hockey, which I don't know anything about hockey. So, trigger warning, it does involve drugs, death, and sexual assault. So if those are anything that are going to be bumpy for you, I would avoid it. Yeah, I thought it was really beautifully written, clearly so well researched. The author is also half indigenous and half white. So she like apparently spent almost 10 years just researching for this book. So I appreciate the work that went into it, and it's unfortunately a very timely story. So that is The Firekeepers' Daughter. And last but not least, I'm going to keep this really, really quick. I read this yesterday and it ruined my life. I'm talking about Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I promise you, I'm going to film this tomorrow. I'm going to make an entire separate video about this book, and because of that, I'm going to keep this real short because there's no way for me not to spoil it. I feel the spoilers like bubbling up. Oh my god, this is... Marissa Meyer is known for her fairy tale retelling. So she has the Lunar Chronicles, which I really loved, which had, oh my god, who didn't it have? It had Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, who else? Snow White. She just takes fairy tales and keeps like a couple elements and then just turns them on their head. I really loved Lunar Chronicles. I haven't read anything else, I don't think. And everyone said to read Heartless. So here I am reading Heartless, and I'm so mad. Like, every time I think about it, I mean, it's only been 24 hours, but like, I'm wrecked. It's not to say it's a bad book. It's just one of those books that like emotionally crushes you if you're into that sort of thing. It's not really a retelling. It takes place in Wonderland, as in Alice. So Alice is nowhere to be seen, but we have characters like Marianne, the Mock Turtle, there's the Mad Hatter, there's the Hare, there's the cook that's obsessed with Pepper. You know, like if you've read the book, I don't know if they're all in the movie. There's also like the Jabberwocky, stuff like that. You'll get a kick out of it. Like, I thought that it was very well done. It was also like a little bit loopy to read because everything in Wonderland is a little strange. So it was very Wonderland whimsically, but at the same time, it had like a plot that made sense. I thought that the plot moved a little bit slowly, but I'm just so upset at the ending. I can't say any more. If you are interested in fairy tale retelling, specifically Alice in Wonderland, it's a very quick read. It's a little bit slow paced, but like it felt like you were reading more of that just like straight up Lewis Carroll writing. It was a little bit funky, a little bit weird. If you want your heart to be literally ripped out, read it. I am so upset at everyone who recommended this book to me and didn't warn me that I was going to need like a bandage to put on my soul. But here we are. So that is Heartless. That is the last book I read in January. I'm in pain. I'm upset. I just read a bunch of sad, dark books. The Graceling was probably like the lightest book, but even that had me crying. That's how my year ended and started. Hopefully I can read a happy book this year. Just one happy book this year, please. Once again, thank you to Book of the Month. To get your first book for $9.99, you can use the code BEMINE or CARI. And I will see you guys next time, and we're going to talk about Heartless because I can't not talk about Heartless. Please recommend me some happy books in the comment section, or if you're going to tell me a book that's going to break my heart, tell me that it's going to break my heart. Please give me a little bit of warning so that I can like have a blanket or like something to cry on, you know? Shame on all of you. Oh my god. So anyway, I'm going to leave before, spoilers are coming out. So I will see you guys later. Thank you so much. And I love you all. I hope you're doing well. Hope 2022 is treating you well. See you later. Bye.